Good morning. Thank you for having me on your show or your program, Sinchujitpo. Very happy to be here. I want to say a very good morning and a warm welcome, a warm greetings to all your readers and viewers. Singapore, as a founding member of Asean and also the smallest country in Asean, has fully supported, has always taken a very consistent position vis-a-vis ASEAN. We support ASEAN's goal of trying to develop what we call a prosperous, successful, rules-based regional organization. That's the goal. And for ASEAN to remain successful, I think it always must remain open and inclusive and outward-facing as well, outward-looking. Cannot be inward-looking. And I would say that, of course, there are differences occasionally between ASEAN members that might be perceived by others to be undermining the unity of ASEAN. But if you look at the longer-term picture, I think ASEAN has done extremely well. We managed those differences that arise from time to time, and yet been able to take the regional organization forward. With the FTA in 1992, and more recently in 2015, you have the ASEAN community being created. Look at our record during the pandemic. Despite it being a pandemic, intra-ASEAN investment went up by 5% to $23.3 billion US. So that's a significant amount. Well, I think, like I said, in the last 10 years, I think ASEAN has grown quite a lot, And let's not forget, in many of these countries, the populations are very young. Indonesia, even Malaysia to some extent, although you're slightly aging. Singapore is a bit more aging compared to the rest, but by and large, you find Vietnam is a hubbing, vibrant economy. So you find there are plenty of opportunities for investors in this part of the world. If the investments comes into ASEAN, any investor puts his money into ASEAN, it's a net plus for the regional organization and a plus for everyone. I think for the next 10 years, we'll continue to move ahead, but we should never be resting on our laurels, never take it for granted that everybody wants to engage you. You must always try to make yourself attractive. So I think we just got to keep building upon it. Never look back, look forward. Well, I wouldn't call it a negative issue. I think fighting corruption should be seen as a positive issue. Corruption is a scourge, and I think it undermines many things in the country. It undermines business confidence, it undermines trust in governmental institutions, and overall undermines a country's development in the long run. So it's important that all of us take some steps, active steps, to try to fight corruption. Singapore decided from day one, has always made it a point to take a zero tolerance approach when it comes to corruption. There's some efforts we can do at the regional level. I think where we can, we will cooperate and try to tackle corruption at the regional level. But each country also has to do its part at the national level. This is a short-term gain because in the long term, the serious investors will say, look, we don't want to put our money in a place where, corruption is rampant. So you've got to think of that as well. Let me start off by saying that the US and China are both very important trading, economic and political partners of ASEAN. I think no ASEAN country wants to be seen to be taking sides with one against the other. We want to engage both countries positively, and we want them to engage us positively too. It's a relationship that should be mutually beneficial for them and for us. That's the approach we take. So we want them to be actually best friends if possible. Of course, that's sometimes beyond our control. They have their own set of problems and their own set of tensions. But where we can, we try to deal with them fairly and as friends. And I also look at IPEF from the perspective that, we want to engage the major powers. Like I said earlier, we want to engage the major powers. And ASEAN in itself is a useful platform for the major powers to interact. All these ASEAN plus 1, ASEAN plus 3, ASEAN plus 10, whatever you call it, these all formats are created to allow the major powers to interact with ASEAN and for us to interact with them. And they have an opportunity to sit there and talk to one another. And that helps. Of course, we would like to see our two good friends, the US and China, working closely with one another, working closely with us to manage the peace and stability and economic growth of this region. The world is changing. ASEAN has to change as well. So far, ASEAN has shown a tremendous capacity of resilience to be able to change. And I think we need to keep working at it so that the major powers, not just the Americans and the Chinese, the European Union, you have the others, Japan, India, you've got Canada, you've got even Africa, Latin America, they all want to engage us. And the reason they want to engage us is because they look at us and say, look, this is an outfit that is good. They have their problems, but they're not major problems. They handle it much better than many of us. I think we should work with them. And therefore, we should constantly be looking for ways to show the Americans and the Chinese and everybody else that we're worthwhile talking to.